Hey, welcome back to the Experience Share. My name is Blake, and welcome to the final installment of our Elite and Unique tier list videos here. Going out with the largest one yet, taking on our sites. Thank you all so much for the support that you've given thus far through these tier list videos. We are looking at doing a top 10 commons and uncommons for each of the thresholds after this. It's probably not going to be daily uploads like this one has been, but this has been a blast. Thank you all for the supports. Leave a like, leave a comment down below. Thank you for subscribing. All right, let's dive in. Starting off here with Ancestral Altazar here, and it has the units can move between this site and any void as if they were adjacent. Maybe this can see some play in a void walk deck in the future, but for right now, this doesn't provide any sort of threshold. This is just going to have to go in that kind of bad category. There's other cards that I would rather play than this one right now. All right, next, the two-player playmat that we have hopefully all become very familiar with if you've been playing in person. It has the Genesis ability, conjure a broken weapon or armor here. This is going to go into the narrow and fine category. If you're playing a lot of weapons or armor, then this is going to have some sort of value for you because the odds of your opponent playing one is low as well. But maybe in this next set, Arthurian Legends, maybe there will be some more armor, more weapons that would be beneficial to play. And so I only see this card getting quite a bit better into the next set. Alright, so we have Boneyard here, which is a unique Genesis. Each player may summon a minion from their cemetery here. It does not provide any sort of threshold, and I am going to put this one above Battlefield in the narrow and fine category. The main reason why is there's not a ton of graveyard synergy right now. This is one of the only, this is a reanimator, so I've seen some people do some pretty awesome things with it where they've discarded cards to get this big, I've seen a great old one down on turn 3 with this effect. And so don't get me wrong, it's strong when it goes off, but the odds of it doing it consistently and building a deck around Boneyard, even if you're going to be able to mulligan all 3 sites searching for it, even if you're playing Crossroads to be able to try to find it, to be able to build a deck around Boneyard, we're not quite there yet. If you are building a Reanimator style deck, then sure, in that deck, it is powerful on the games that you have it, but you're not always going to have it. And so it's just going to go into this fine tier for now. If it had any sort of threshold, any at all, this would be a flexible and powerful card for sure. But because it doesn't give the threshold is why it's going in that narrow and fine category. All right, Bottomless Pit. It's going to break up the symmetry here. Bottomless Pit is going to be a narrow and powerful card. This is powerful in any sort of control shells that need control sites, but it's also good in any sort of monocolor, because this says whenever a non-airborne minion enters this site, kill it. This can be a really powerful effect to be able to prevent your opponent from attacking your sites while allowing you to be able to move through it with airborne creatures. Really good card here. Alright, next we have Cloud City, which is once during your turn, if this site may fly to a nearby void. If you're playing air, and you're not playing 3-4 colors, you're going to play Cloud City. It is a very powerful card. It's unique, you're not going to see it every game, but just some extra mobility, being able to move a minion that much closer to one of your opponent's sites. Really, really, really strong effect. Alright, next we have Crossroads here. And I know this is probably going to be a hot take, going to make some people mad. I have seen so many people play Crossroads. They love Crossroads. It's just fine. If you're playing Pathfinder, please, please, please do not play Crossroads. You need your threshold. Don't play Crossroads in Pathfinder. Trust me, I have played so many games with Pathfinder. The odds of you would rather just draw the extra site that could be the threshold that you need that turn than flip over a Crossroads, and then next turn you might be able to get the threshold that you need. Don't play Crossroads in your Pathfinder decks. Maybe there's more sites in the future and you can play monocolor, sure. Feel free to throw Crossroads in there if you're playing monocolor Pathfinder. Alright, I'll get off the Pathfinder tangent here with Crossroads. It doesn't give any threshold. That's the main thing. So if you're playing a monocolor deck, sure, play Crossroads. But there's probably better things that you can use. Other effects that might be more strong for you to be able to use. Alright, Dome of Osiris. So this site and all minions here cannot be attacked. This is going to go... Oh, not you, Donnybrook. This is going to go into that narrow and powerful, kind of right there next to Bottomless Pit. Very similar in the type of effect. It just does a wall. It's powerful in what it does in some of these control shells. If you're playing a control deck, and really it's like Elementalist, maybe narrow and powerful, just should say like Elementalist here at this point. If you're playing Elementalist, you're probably playing this. Alright, Donnybrook End, unique site. Anyone may cast minions here, and and they may do so for one less. Oh, this is so tough. Because I want to put this into a powerful tier because, man, it's so fun. You're playing a whole bunch of minions. You can kind of combo off. But you are betting that you have more minions than your opponent. And that's not always the case. You're also allowing your opponent to summon directly on your site and start attacking you. You need to be a minion-heavy deck. And I think it's fine in those decks. But this is not a card I'm looking to slot in every single one of my decks. It does not provide any sort of threshold. And so we'll see. It could be maybe in the future. I don't, if you are able to draw a lot of cards, that could be good because you're going to get the discount more often than your opponent. If you're playing like a low to the ground aggro deck and you're just like, hey, you know what? You can keep summoning minions here, but that means you're not going to deal with my minions on the board. But it's going to go into this narrow and fine category. Dwarven Forge. Anyone may conjure weapons and armor here for one less. It's going to be just like Battlefield here. It's going to go into this bottom. We're going to put it down there with the Battlefield. And as Battlefield continues to get better, Dwarven Forge will obviously get better, assuming that there's fire threshold synergies with the weapons that you're trying to build. Alright. Edge of the World must always be adjacent to the void. This is going to go, you know what, I'm going to have to put it in this same thing, narrow and powerful. And I'm kind of realizing like this has really just been like an Elementalist, site section right now. But if you were able to play this on turn 1 under your Elementalist, and then you play 2 sites on the outside, that means no sites can go directly in front of you. And this can be really hard for your opponents to be able to deal with. Really strong effect, really good card. And I feel like I might as well just continue down that tier list here of narrow and powerful and go ahead and put the Great Wall. Enemy minions cannot move through this site top its border on the ground. Airborne can get over it, but same thing. These wall cards are just really strong, really powerful effects that not all decks, if you're not built around to be able to beat these, they can really slow you down and give the control deck an edge. Now, the issue is that they have to draw all these unique sites in order to get those effects. Alright. Next we have Imperial Road, which has Genesis, target opponent, then you may play a site adjacent to this one. This is going to go into the narrow and powerful section as well. I'm going to put it above Great Wall, probably below Bottomless Pit. And what makes this card really good is in an aggressive strategy, you're able to either, one, ramp out sites faster than your opponent, and that can speed up the game, which could be advantageous for you. But where I really like playing this is in more so control decks, where I can afford to keep drawing sites, and whenever my opponent does not have any sites in hand, playing it and just ramping out an extra site. In those cases, it can be a really strong card to be able to help push your deck forward. Island Leviathan, once you have 8 water threshold, you can animate an 8/8 monster. You put a rubble there, and this one honestly is flexible and fine. The odds of you getting 8 water threshold in your deck are so low, but there's no downsides to playing it in water. And so if you're playing a water deck, you don't, and you have the space, sure, play an Island Leviathan. All right, Kingdom of Agratha here has the triple earth threshold. All minions have burrowing. I'm gonna put this in the flexible, and oh man, I'm gonna put this in the narrow and fine section. Probably the top of it. My issue with this is if you're playing earth and you want to play this card, you're also turning off your own earthquakes, your own berries. So sure, they're not going to be able to earthquake you. They're not going to be able to bury you. So this is going to be like an aggressive deck, but there's also so much downside that you don't get to bury them. And that can be really, really devastating. All right, next we have Maelstrom. At the start of your turn, you may pull each minion in this body of water one step. For water, this is a flexible and powerful card. If you are playing water, you're pretty much always going to play Maelstrom. You might as well get this effect off. It can trigger a Great Shark, a lot of things that it can trigger. If you're playing water, there's a good chance you're playing Maelstrom. All right, Mirage. When played, you may return a site in play to your hand to play this site in its place. Honestly, if this card to me is just kind of bad. You're intentionally, like, you can trigger the Genesis effect again. And so if you could trigger the Genesis effect of Battlefield again or a Boneyard again, like that's pretty strong. But you're taking a turn off to be able to do it too. So maybe there's better sites that have better Genesis effects that we want to continue to abuse with this, but for now, I just don't see a reason to go down on sites. Why I would want to lose mana for the turn to be able to play that site. All right, this is the like super S tier here, Mirror Realm. It can be any site, so it can help trigger if it is a unique. You can play two of them almost with Mirror Realm. It can help you get the colors that you need. It is only nearby, but it can be nearby and then also take your opponent's sites. So a lot of flexibility. Probably the most powerful site. Maybe the second most powerful site in the game. Well, I'll show you probably what I think is the probably strongest site here in a little bit. All right, next, Observatory. This is like an auto slot in to any sort of air deck, and I think it's probably better than Cloud City, better than Maelstrom. Really strong. Genesis, look at your next three spells, put them back in any order. Really strong effect, no downside other than the fact that if you towers generate an extra mana, but if I've already played one of each tower, I'm definitely playing in Observatory. All right, Pillar of Xeros. Genesis, banish all dead minions and heal 1 life for each. This is the one that might beat out Mirror Realm because it hates out Death Speaker. It can gain you life. Mirror Realm can be a copy, and that's something to say. And then you have 2 of them in your deck, but this is a really strong, flexible card. In the sense that I've seen it even go into non-earth decks just for the effect. Planar Gate. Minions here can traverse the void, gaining void walk when they leave it. I can't think of a reason to play this one now. I'm going to put it in the kind of bad tier. Doesn't mean that void walk synergies can't come out in the future and it gets better over time, but for now there's just not a lot of synergy, and why I'd want to waste however many turns it's going to take to play my minion, have it walk into the void, and then keep walking until it can get to an advantageous site. There's just not a ton of good reasons to do that. All right, next we have Primordial Springs. This card is probably going to go into this bottom of this narrow and powerful tool, because this is a site that can draw you 3 sites. It has Genesis. If you control fewer sites than an opponent, draw 3 sites. So Primordial Springs plus Imperial Road is such a good combo in the sense that it can help you continue to gain more sites. But the issue is that it's when played, your opponent has more. So you need to take a turn off. Your opponent plays a site, then you play it. After you play it, you're still down to be able to draw the card. So this isn't my opponent's on 3, I play it when I have 2, and then I the Genesis triggers. No, you're tied now. Genesis would not trigger. Alright, Pristine Paradise provides 1 mana threshold unless completely empty. I'm going to put this in the top of Flexible and Fine, probably below Crossroads. It'd be so easy for a minion on your opponent's side to walk into this, turning off all of your threshold. You can't play this in Pathfinder. There's some circumstances where maybe this is a strong card. I think it's fine. Like, it's flexible in the decks that I can go into. I think it's a fine card. But just because your opponent can turn it off, you can excellently turn it off. Not necessarily one that I'd be looking forward to playing. Alright, Rift Valley. You may pull apart a partial row or column to have a void, to make a void in which to play this. What this means is you don't have to play this next to one of your own sites. This means that you can play this and move your opponent's sites and play right next to them. Looking at you, Avatar of Earth. Avatar of Earth turns this into a flexible and powerful card. Being able to play right next to your opponent, forcing them out of the way, is such a strong card. So be wary of when you're playing Avatar of Earth of how they can use Rift Valley to be able to really get close to you and put a lot of pressure on really fast. Alright, Flame Caller coming up here right below Mirror Realm. And so Flame Caller has the spell, it's a fire spellcaster, so it can cast fire spells, aka it can shoot firebolts at root spiders underground. This is a really good card because it occupies both below the surface and above the surface. And so this is the first spellcaster that can actually hit things that are buried, and which makes it really strong. Not to mention that you can play this and be nearby an opponent, shoot a projectile or something from there, and it not deal damage to you or your avatar because the site's not going to take any damage from it. Really good card. Alright, we have our Roots next. Roots here of Yggdrasil is going to come up here probably to the top of the narrow and powerful deck. This, when you look at these control decks here, I think these are really powerful sites and what they can do. Roots is just the enabler that enables all these things to happen, where you can continuously reset the board by playing Roots, blowing it up and destroying everything, and then building your deck in a way that you can survive or overcome the Roots trigger. Something fascinating about the Roots is that if you play Roots, might as well do the next one with it, which is Sinkhole, which allows you to sacrifice Sinkhole, destroy a nearby site. So if you sacrifice Sinkhole and destroy Roots, you still get the amount of threshold or energy or mana that you had that turn. You don't get the threshold though, but you do get the mana. And so if you're playing Roots, you blow it up, you still get 5, 6, 7 mana for the however much mana you had until your turn ends. And so as long as it doesn't have a ton of air threshold or a ton of threshold, you can still summon a pretty large minion your opponents on 0 sites, 0 mana, and can cause a lot of damage in a hurry. Sinkhole is going to go to that narrow and powerful. Yes, it can blow up Roots. Yes, it can blow up colors of your opponent that they need. Really solid card. I'd be looking to play this in a 1 color, maybe in some of my 2 color. If I know I'm trying to hit 4 color Death Speaker, when I take them off their thresholds, I'll be playing some Sinkholes. Alright, Smokestacks of Na. Other nearby sites lose their abilities. This is, in my opinion, a very bad card. This goes on the very bottom of kind of bad, which is probably a bit of an over-exaggeration. I really think, and part of this is like, I've seen people play in Pathfinder. Don't do that. It just turns off all of your sites. Turns off all their abilities. Sites that could really help you. Shuts them down. Really good to get with Color Out of Space. It's because, and the Pristine Paradise, in the sense it just turns off the downside, so you're just playing the 4 color lands. But this card, if all these sites have abilities, they all have effects. You're all playing them for those effects and those abilities. To shut them all down, it's just this is really one of the cards I'm probably the most biased into. Honestly, it probably should be in this like narrow and fine, but No, I really just don't like this card. Love the art. Art's absolutely beautiful, but not going to be a card that you're going to see in any of my decks. All right, Standing Stones. Minions here have Spellcaster. I having a hard time seeing why you'd play this card. It has no threshold on there. I don't know exactly what you're looking to be able to do with it. It's just given the extra spellcaster synergies, like maybe if you can summon somebody there, they have it. Maybe there's some combos with it in the future, but that's not going to be a site that I really look to play too often. All right, next we have Tadpole Pool. It's going to go into the flexible and fine category, similar to the Island Leviathan. It's better than the Island Leviathan. It has pretty much no downside to it. The reason why it's not super far high up here is because sometimes scrying is better than this effect, because you don't always have 3 water threshold. So playing a river and giving you the scry effect is sometimes better. You just need to see what your balance of colors are. I'm playing Maelstrom over the frog. All right. Next, we have Color Out of Space. Provides no mana or threshold if not adjacent to the void. This is a pretty powerful card. In 4-color Death Speaker, you can control the outcome of this a lot better than I would have thought. But on the bottom of the flexible and powerful tier, if you're playing 3 colors, I'd probably look into thinking about playing this. You can control where your opponents play pretty consistently and prevent them from being able to play this in a place that'll turn it off. It's a bad top deck sometimes, like a really bad top deck, but I still think it's a really strong effect. It would help give you all the threshold that you need. All right, Geistwood. Genesis abilities here are also Deathrite abilities. I'm going to put this in this narrow and fine category. And reason why is similar to the Boneyard. It doesn't provide any threshold. Your opponents are not intentionally trying to kill anything that's on a Geistwood. Now, there's some awesome combos you can do with Geistwood. I've cast the Grandmaster Wizard on Geistwood, sacrificed it with Pact of the Devil, drawn 9 cards from a Geistwood, Pact of the Devil, and Apprentice Wizard, or a Grandmaster Wizard. I have done that one time out of, I don't even know how many times. I call it 10, 20 times of playing that deck. Not a combo you're going to see or do very often. All right. Next, we have the Volts of Zul. The first time an avatar stops here, they draw 3 cards and skip their next turn. So if your opponent's on death's door, you think 3 cards can help you win the game. It's a pretty strong card. But losing the turn is such a big downside. I don't know if I'd give up my turn for 3 cards. If you can play it on turn 1, hey, that's a really good card, right? You just play it and then, turn ends, and you can get an extra mana, but I might trade it then. In general, though, that's not going to be a card I look to play. Last but not least, Mount Vesuvius. 3 fire thresholds, sacrifice Vesuvius. Each unit occupying nearby sites takes 3 damage. This is another really strong effect here. Coming up here to the top, I'm probably playing this over Flame Caller in most circumstances, but if I can play fire and I can squeeze in 2 single threshold cards, I'm playing both of these here. Really good, really strong effect. You can 2 for 1 with a sight. Really incredibly powerful. But that's going to do it here for our last but not least Site, Elite, and Unique tier list. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did I just try to build you an Elementalist control deck here, this narrow and powerful tier? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Is Pillar better or worse than Mirror Realm? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for subscribing. I hope you all have a blessed day. Take care. Bye.